This is Seasons of Discontent with your hosts Rick Snyder and Matt Combs.
Welcome to Seasons of Discontent, Season 11, Episode 2, brought to you by Rick Snyder's Washington on YouTube. And I'm Rick Snyder.
I'm Matt.
And we're back discussing all things Washington life as part of my network, Rick Snyder's. And so please like, share, subscribe, comment. And if you see that little dollar sign on YouTube underneath, that's for Matt. Make sure you throw him some money.
I need a new computer.
Say the least. That's why we're here today. I said it to the string on the 2 tin cans broke, so we went a day later.
Yeah, between the heat yesterday and, of course, as you know, I'm in my luxurious garage studio. This is just a fancy green screen behind me, but between the heat and yes, no, I am not at hold on, Northwest Field. I almost said FedEx, but we'll get to that. But anyway, yeah, between that and computer technical issues, this is episode 2.1. We'll call it that.
All right. So, of course, they did the cut down from 53 down to 53. The only cuts really, I thought KJ Henry kind of surprised me. Part of that was Jamin Davis is theoretically a defensive lineman now. So I guess they just were stacked too much. That was a guy with, I thought, really great potential, showed a lot, but you had the new GM and coach say, not our guy, let's keep our guy. And then they ended up trading away Ridgeway, too, for a bag of balls. So there's 2 linemen down. And to me, I saw a lot of injuries on that line last year. I would have gone a little more on depth and kept Henry. And then Cincinnati snapped him up right away off waivers.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, KJ was probably the biggest surprise considering how quick that Cincinnati picked him up off the waiver wire. We had kind of heard rumblings in the camp about the potential of Ridgeway being dealt. You know, they drafted Johnny Newton, and Fedarian Mathis has actually had a pretty decent camp in preseason to earn himself a spot on the roster. But, you know, with Mathis, that's coming back from an injury. Like you said, Mathis is a Rivera guy. I mean, Rick, if there's one thing that we learned from all these cuts are Rivera guys are not going to be a part of this team very much going forward. I mean, JP Finley put something out like what is there, like 12 people left from his drafts or something like that?
Right. Yeah, I was looking at him. 12 guys left from the draft. Oh, got it over here. And none from the 2020 draft, which was Chase on that one. I guess if you said the highlight would have been their 2021 draft of 10 picks. 4 are gone, but Davis, Cosme, St. Juste, Brown, Bates, and Forrest are still there, and they have roles. Cosme's a good player. You know, Bates is a really good blocker for a tight end. You know, so they got a little something there. It's 22 draft. They have 4 left, cut 4 or traded, whatever. You know, Hal Dotson traded away, and Cole Turner was cut, but now back on the practice squad.
Right.
Mathis, Brian Robinson, Butler, and Paul still around. Butler and Paul on the fence there. Then last year they cut 5 guys, so they kept Forbes in the first, Quan Martin in the second. Quan Martin might be the one to watch. I mean, that's it. And then of the general roster now, they're down to 22 guys from last year. So that's 58.5% of their roster was cut, traded, whatever. And that is the most, as I've said before, since World War II in 1945. We're talking 79 years ago is the last time we saw this kind of turnover.
Yeah.
And that took a world war.
Yeah.
So, you know, and they didn't even bring back a quarterback, didn't bring back a linebacker with Davis moving, 1 running back, 1 tight end. I mean, man, you know, special teams, they kept the kick punter. You know, they just decided, lost with those guys, we'll try and win with our guys.
Yeah, and I mean, we kind of knew that was the MO of Peters when he came in. I mean, they added, damn near 20 free agents, you know, in the offseason. So this was going to be a full roster turnover. This is, and I think, Rick, this is more of a telling sign that, look, this is not going to be a quick and easy fix, which we all knew it wasn't. No matter how much Rivera and team and fans wanted to I don't know, blow smoke about, the Cole Turners that he drafted and the Chris Rodriguez's and, all these guys. Oh my God, we were so lucky to nail this guy down in the third round and da da da. It just shows how much of a look for everything that Rivera did. And I've been critical of the man. However, he did lead us to where we are today. He was put in a bad situation from the get-go. He's not a personnel guy. He's a football coach. You know what I mean? But he was an adult in the room when we needed one to take over and kind of get this team back into some form of respectability. He's not a personnel guy. We saw that, and it's showing. And Peters is overturning and overhauling this roster, and it's not going to be a 1 or 2 year quick fix like it has been under Dan Snyder. This is a long haul, and I think Quinn and Peters are in this for at least the 5 year duration of their contracts. They kept the pieces that were important. They've accumulated pieces this offseason that are important to this team, being obviously a hopeful star and future long-term starter at quarterback for this team, which we haven't had. We kind of got a glimmer of what it could be with Robert, and then that just faded away after 2 seasons. You've got veterans on both sides of the ball, like an Ertz and a Wagner, who came to this team to not only obviously play, but to be leaders on the field and to teach these younger guys Dan and Cliff Kingsbury's systems. So we kind of see what this roster is shaping up to be. I know you've said 7 to 8 wins. I'm not going to quite go that high. They made one addition in Noah Brown after trading Jahan Dotson. Noah Brown is, when he was with Dallas, that was a pretty, he's a 7th round draft pick, I think, for Dallas. And he shined when he needed to for those couple years in Dallas, but he's hampered by injury. So we don't know how long he's going to stay upright for the Commanders, but they're trying to plug holes wherever they can. And they're going to get through this season. And hopefully in the draft, they focus on left tackle and building up this offensive line and adding pieces, explosive pieces, not just people.
They brought in Eckler and Ertz and Wagner. I haven't really watched Wagner much during the spring and summer, but I can tell you that Ertz and Eckler are ready to kick somebody's butt. They're not old men. They're going to come in and make real contributions on that. As far as the wins, Vegas has them at 5 wins. I don't know. I got to be optimistic at this point. There's plenty of time when the losing starts.
How many games did we win last year? 3, 4?
4.
4?
Yeah,
you figure a new coach, new system, new team, new quarterback. That's good for a three game swing. I could see him at 6 and 11.
Well, all right. So I'm surprised how many fans I have on Twitter that are cool with having a bad season because they just want to rebuild. Well, you still want to win. We'll see how everybody's how happy they are if they start off 1-6 or something. Because the first part of the schedule is really tough.
Yeah.
And we'll see how everybody was patient then. It's like Mike Tyson said, everybody's got to play until they get punched in the face.
Yeah, and I mean
6, that's punched in the face.
You mean realistically too, last year was kind of the honeymoon period, with Harrison and group taking over. And, we all finally coming to the realization that Dan Snyder is gone. He no longer has anything to do with this team. We had to ride out the 1 more year with Ron Rivera. Now this is kind of getting back to the basics of football, I guess you could call it, getting back to the basics of running an organization. We have a pretty respectable head coach that commands a room. We've got a GM that walks in and commands a room, and we have an owner that is actually going out and trying to make improvements to things that were lacking. Obviously the stadium. We'll talk about the new naming rights and all that stuff, but adding the field portal or the player portal, and he's adding all these different things, and they got rid of that gosh darn Sears statue mannequin of Sean Taylor. He's trying to do everything right, and Harris is trying to fix everything while Peters and Quinn and everyone are working to fix the football operations. It's going to take time. I kind of want people to be prepared that it is going to take time. This place was a bigger mess than I think either one of us realized.
Yeah, especially the stadium itself. He just put $75 million into the stadium and practice facility. I was like, didn't you walk through this thing? Didn't you guys vet it out that hey man, I'm going to have to put in a couple $100 million into this place, before we can move to a new stadium. I would have wanted give them a little less money, but they thought Bezos was in the room, and so I guess they bid too much on that. But it happens. As far as training camp goes, Dan Quinn talked about it, and then the owner, Josh Harris, talked to the media before the game Sunday. He talked more in 20 minutes than Dan did in 25 years. I mean, wow, we're asking questions and getting answers about things that we really would like to hear about.
Yeah, I know, right?
Crazy. Training camp. They do want to. Harris said, "Listen, I don't care where you train," and Quinn said, "Well, I really want to go away for team bonding, whatever BS." But I know they're talking to Shepherd College. That's been out for a while. It's in a little place near Hagerstown. I think not next year, but 26 might be the year that they could do that. So if they go to Shepherd College, there's nobody up there. It's gonna be like going to Frostburg again, as far as fans go. So we'll see if that really happens on everything. The cool thing, Josh Harris was really big up on getting the NFL draft here in a few years for the for the National Mall. You got to get permission from the National Park Service and federal government on that kind of thing. But he was really confident that it's going to happen. And I thought, well, that would be really cool. Love to see that. Because if we can't get a Super Bowl, if your town can't do a Super Bowl, you should be able to get the draft once every 20 years or something. That's only fair. If you can hold it in Green Bay, if you can hold it in Detroit, you can bring it here. Mm-hmm. It's a lovely time of year in early May. There's no tourists around. The cherry blossoms, they're gone by now.
Right.
Yeah, let's just cram a few more people in here, but whatever.
Well, look, I mean, Harris did talk openly also about the stadium and getting the RFK site back and everything like that, which was good to hear. I mean, that is obviously still on their radar. One of the things that he said that I agree with, it kind of all hinges on what happens in November. So they're going to kind of put it on the back burner, and they need to figure out, which party is going to be in power in the Senate and in Congress and overall in the White House, to try and figure out what they're going to do with RFK. But look, we know he's buddied up with Muriel Bowser. Muriel Bowser's come out and said she wants, the team back home where they belong. So the right people are in line to get it where it needs to go. It's just a matter of if it can happen. And they've hired this consulting firm from LA. I think they're paying them like $500,000 to figure out what the land can be used for to maximize its potential. So they're doing their due diligence with the property. And I do believe I got a sneaky feeling that it's going to end up there.
Well, it's a long haul because the Senate basically is in session for about another week, and then they're going on break until after the elections, and then they basically have 4 weeks after Thanksgiving to the first of the year to vote on it if they wish. But as you said, right now there's like a 56% chance, according to those political sites I look, that the Republicans will gain control of the Senate. If they do, they may have a different opinion on this. I don't know why they would, but it's not a political situation, but everything's a political situation. And if that happens and they don't do it in December because they want to hold off, then you got to resubmit the bill. You got to start over again. And who knows what the House is like. I mean, it's one of those things of, you should have got it done when you could have. And of course, there were people there holding it up. And not just the guy from out west. Maryland was prepared to step in and hold it up so they could try and keep it in Landover. Mm-hmm. So I think they'll give them another year to try and work this out downtown. And if not, they're going to start moving dirt over in Maryland because Maryland's ready to go. Governor wants to do it. I think they got a year to get it done. And if they can't, then they move on.
Yeah, they pretty much want to bulldoze FedEx and just build it in the parking lot, right?
Yeah, it's like they did in Philly. You build and Pittsburgh did this. Mm-hmm. Build your new one in the parking lots and then knock down your old one for parking.
Yeah,
like that. And could they even take a year off to say go over to Maryland or something for a year?
But Rick, that's a weird that would be a weird scenario for that to happen because during the week, for those of you that aren't from this area, during the week, Garrett Morgan Boulevard and the loop around the stadium is an active roadway. Like this is it's not just for events only. They don't close the road off. Like that is a cut through between 202 and Central Avenue. Like this is a it's a legit road that a lot of people drive in the morning to go to work. So that would be you would be reconfiguring the entire area. And
Yeah, but that's not a big deal because the Air Force Memorial over in Virginia, the Air Force Memorial is right next to Arlington National Cemetery. They're annexing the land to put more graves over there to keep that cemetery going.
right,
So they closed Columbia. I don't know if it's called Columbia
it's
Pike.
Columbia Pike.
Yeah, they've closed it for like a year, and they're going to work it around the whole thing. That's a major road.
Yeah, I mean that's a bigger road than Garrett Morgan Boulevard. Let's be honest, but
Yeah, so I mean, you could go to Maryland and do purple lines going right by the building, and
mhm.
that's Bird Stadium's an old. We figured out it was built in 1950. It's still there, because nobody's using it really every fall.
Yeah,
But maybe they could do something like that. I don't know. But right now it's Northwest Field. They cut an 8-year deal with the credit union, which I'd never really heard of. But I
I've heard
guess
commercials for them.
that's the whole point is you want the exposure. I thought it was going to be Bob's Furniture Barn or something, honestly.
Yeah,
I knew they were going to change the name. You pay $6 billion, you need every dollar you can get. So I knew
yeah,
they
you need some revenue. Yeah,
So Northwest Field, okay, we're in the Mid-Atlantic and all, but whatever, that kind of stuff.
well, why isn't it Northwest Federal Credit Union Field? Is that just too wordy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Northwest Field sounds like it should be in Seattle.
Yeah, yeah.
Something like that. But
I don't know. I was still holding out for Jack Kent Cooke Stadium, but
yeah, there's no money.
There's no money in that name.
Yeah, the practice squad skipped over. The one thing Hartman's on the practice squad, which surprises me a touch, because they have 3 active quarterbacks on the 53, including Driscoll. I still think Driscoll could be trade bait for somewhere down the road, and so you keep Sam there as a future one. And they gave him that big bonus, which of course that all goes against the cap, and that's a new thing. If you get cut, then all that's gone, and you're now on the practice squad. It's pretty standard. Everybody gets the same thing on the practice squad, kind of stuff. And that's why they didn't pick up anybody on waivers too, is you inherit the deal that they have. Now, maybe it's not bad a deal, but if it is, it is. If you're a veteran, you're bringing a guy in. Veterans who have 4 years in the league, if they're on a roster opening day, they get paid the whole year.
Well, I was going to say that's why Martavis Bryant didn't end up on the practice squad. Martavis Bryant is an emergency break glass situation where if one of their wide receivers goes down for the year, they can bring him in because he knows the system.
Yeah, but he wasn't on the 14-man practice squad, but nobody else has him. So
right, that's what I'm saying. He's not on a practice squad because they don't want to pay him that much. He knows the system. They can bring him in. If a Byron Pringle or Jamison Crowder or someone like that is going to go down or does go down during the season, they can easily plug Bryant in. He's a veteran. He's a smart guy. Well, yeah. I don't know how smart he is considering he smoked a lot of weed when he was with the Steelers. But anyway, weed's legal now, so it's a little different. But yeah, some people were surprised that he didn't end up on practice squad. And that was the thing with Noah Brown. Noah Brown didn't get claimed. That was a 1-year signing when he was released by the Texans, or by Dallas, I believe. So yeah, that was a straight to the roster signing, and he filled the spot that Ridgeway took Ridgeway vacated when he was traded.
And Washington keeps its number 2 position on the waiver claims for the first 3 weeks,
which is very important.
And then it shifts to the active standings. But they're not done yet. I mean, there's probably another guy or two that's going to show up here eventually.
Well, this sports writer that I know, he told me a little hint that you always wait until after week 2 when the veterans start showing up.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's see what else. Oh, Sean Taylor Memorial, which you mentioned. So they got rid of Sean Taylor Memorial. They brought in a dummy and just hauled it off to the Modell Sporting Goods store.
Yeah, they gave it back to Sears to go back with Chapter 11.
So they're going to do, Harris said, they're going to do a real statue, real bronze or whatever. As a tour guide in town, I'm in the statue business. I can say probably that's at least 1.5 years away, that if you're lucky, because that's if everybody likes the artist's vision. I mean, something like the Eisenhower Memorial, it took over 20 years to get that thing done because everybody thought about the design.
Look, all you gotta do is call the guy that made the Ray Lewis statue. I'm not a Ravens fan. I'm not a big Ray Lewis fan, but at the end of the day, that is one of the best statues I've ever seen. Call that guy. Get him to do Sean, and then I'm sorry, Rick, but you got some other guys that you got to do. That
Well,
stadium, like I talked about, that whole roadway around that stadium needs to be filled with legends. You need Monk, you need Theismann, you need Sonny, you need Riggo. You need guys like that.
yeah, I think what they're going to do is really wait for the new stadium. But Josh Harris did say he thought 2030 was a reasonable target. It could be 31, sure, but I would almost wait until the new stadium to put even Sean Taylor in it, and I would put Sean on the concourse like he is now. But then I would take 4 statues on the new corners, and so that way everybody coming in the stadium gets to see a statue. And I think you have to put Ball there because without Sammy Ball, honestly, the NFL may not have survived. He
Mhm.
was important with the passing game and all of it that he did. Not just the Redskins franchise, the NFL might have not made it without Ball. So you got Ball there. You got Bobby Mitchell, who went through hell. He was a great player, Hall of Famer, but went through hell with all the racist things that happened when he got traded to Washington. Just crazy stuff that would happen. And so you have him there. I think you have Daryl Green on one corner, and I would try to do a 5G thing where it runs down the wall. See how fast that 4-1 really is. You could race it. Then Riggo, most important play of the post World War II era, the Super Bowl era, was Riggo breaking that tackle of Don McNeil and scoring, and they win the first Super Bowl. That's a huge play. So you've got, and Sonny would be my 4th. So because Sonny was a beloved person there. So I think you do that, at least in a new stadium. You do real ones, you get some bronze, you melt it down, you make but it takes a while for everybody. I've just watched it. Like I said, the Eisenhower one, it took 20 years, and quite frankly, I don't like it. But at least they finally have that. It's across from the Air and Space Museum.
Yeah.
You never statues, therefore, because if you screw this one up, the crowd's going to really go bad on Sean Taylor. So you've got to, how many people have to check that off? I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, that Harris has talked about breaching history with current day. Obviously, connecting the Redskins name and the Redskins legacy to what the team is today. Sean obviously was a tragedy. He was a great player for this franchise and one that, a lot of people looked up to and remember. But you hit it right. You got to hit the pillars of this organization and honor them as well. You got to do the Riggos, you got to do the Sonnies. Sammy Ball, like you said, I mean, that guy, like you said, the league wasn't going to survive without Sammy. You can do Monk, you can do God, there's just so many people that you can do on this team. They love Doug Williams. I don't know if Doug is worthy of a statue, but he still had one of the greatest performances in a Super Bowl you've ever seen. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You kind of have to, with the new stadium, you have to bridge the past with the present. And I think I would save the majority of those guys. I would save for, with the new stadium opening, but you also want them to be able to be there and to see them and to be alive. So, obviously with Sonny, you may have to get it done sooner than later. Sammy, you're not going to be able to do. He's already passed. But yeah, that would be my thought for the new stadium.
A couple of things Harris said too. They're not bringing back the Redskins name. The quote was, "The old name can't come back." Okay,
He's right. He's
so
right.
we're done with. I don't know why we're not done with that, but we're not. But he said it sold more tickets this year than last year already.
Yeah, and what are they doing week 2 at the home opener? Are they honoring the Blackfoot Indian tribe?
I've heard they are.
Yeah, that was one of the things that they had to do to kind of suffice this guy up in Montana that was holding up the stadium.
But they've never disrespected or said anything other or ignored it. They've always been okay with this.
Mhm.
This is a money grab by that senator there trying to get something because he said, let's put the logo on merchandise. Well, number one, NFL isn't going to allow it, so that's dead on arrival.
You could always go with a company like Mitchell and Ness. Mitchell and Ness sells a lot of throwback gear, so they could strike some sort of a deal where they could make Redskins branded stuff as long as it's not the NFL, because the patent's not owned by anybody anymore.
The NFL will squash it.
Okay, I mean, I'm just saying it's possible.
Yeah, I will squash it. I mean, I wish they would go back to Redskins. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, it's easier to say than Commanders.
I mean, all these woke companies, they've gone back on their policies now, like eBay and Etsy and all them. We're not going to sell Redskins gear anymore. That lasted 5 minutes until nobody was looking.
Well, hell, one of the main holdups of changing the name was on the stadium, and they're gone. FedEx is gone.
And they always told me they worry about the corporate money problem versus they knew the fans would be okay with it. I say weather the storm and bring it back. But, Harris said he's had tons of conversations with people who started buying season tickets again. He says in his mind, the fandom didn't go away. It just went, was, what do you say? It just got lost for a little while. And I would kind of agree with that. Those fans are still out there. It's just the team has sucked. So there's no reason for everybody to come back on the bandwagon yet. But when they start winning, that bandwagon will be full. We'll have 18-wheelers full of people going by.
Yeah, I mean, you and I both know it's hard to root for a loser, and that's what this team has been, pretty much looked at as during Dan's whole tenure, and I hate to say it, but the Wicked Witch is dead, but it's still going to take a little bit of time to realize that he's gone.
Yeah. And we're gone because we got to get going, but we'll be back next week, middle of the week, more or less. And we do the show every week pretty much, unless the tin cans break or I might go to Vegas. So maybe we'll do one live from the Strip. I'll just we'll do it there.
I can do that.
Yeah, I think they have the half-naked people around there. So it might boost rate.
You're going to go see the naked cowboy?
Oh, no, he's in New York.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
New York, too. I was on top of a bus going by. I go, "Hey, naked cowboy!" And he actually looked up at me and waved.
That's funny.
There you go. I know everybody. All right. Well, we're out.
Did he say, "Hey, wait, aren't you Rick Snyder from the Washington Post?"
That's what they said. It was the Washington Times, Examiner, or the Post Express.
Oh, well,
all the things. But now 106.7 The Fan. Whatever. I'm around somehow. And by the way, if anybody's still listening. We have a new project online Monday morning, The Sermon Writer. You'll see here on YouTube first. And Matt produced it, so it's his fault if you can't hear anything.
I didn't record the video.
Whatever.
I recorded the audio.
Yeah, that's it. Well, that's what I said. You can't hear anything. You can see it fine.
Well, you're not going to hear anything because I haven't finished it. Rick is putting up the version from his shot from his iPhone, so I don't want any criticisms, please. Criticize Apple.
You have new mics coming, so whatever.
Yes.
All right, I'm out of here. I'm Rick Snyder.
I'm Matt.
See you next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Seasons of Discontent with your hosts Rick Snyder and Matt Combs.